Hello, YouTubers. I'm Hiro. Today, me and my buddy Glenn had the day off. Good Andy has been giving us a few days off ever since the successful gala we had. So, each day, a few of us get a day off. Don't worry, the islands aren't crashing or anything. We got plenty of engines still working. And we got engines on the wall. Today, we are watching Victor Tansic's Stories of Sodor Trial. And if you guys have not watched the season premiere of Season 7, please do so. There's a character you guys might recognize from one of us this Sodor the early years of Sodor the Mania series. That's right, Patrick. Anyway, let's watch the trial.
The train, for its type, is the most powerful vehicle on land. And the engines of Sodor are the power behind the docks, industries and branch lines that make up the world-renowned Northwestern Railway. These are the stories of Sodor. I've spoken at length about how the aftermath of the Second World War affected Britain, Sodor, and its engines, but I haven't really discussed how Europe fared once the fighting was done. It was rather tragic, and in hindsight, inevitable. I truly believe the turning point for the war came after the Nazis made the mistake of invading the Soviet Union. The Russians didn't take too kindly to this. After an extraordinarily bloody campaign, they not only drove the Nazis all the way back to Germany, but also out of all of Eastern Europe. And after the conflict ended, the Russians refused to give up this new territory. I won't say they were completely at fault, as neither Britain nor the United States made any serious effort to prevent this. Seemingly overnight, allies became adversaries. World War II may have ended, but the Cold War had begun. Anti-communist propaganda became commonplace, with even a whisper of socialism being a cause for great alarm. Adding to the undercurrent of paranoia that had settled across the world was the prevailing threat of nuclear annihilation. I'm not so sure about that, Edward. You don't think the next World War will start in Europe? Why not, when the last two have? I think if another war is going to start anywhere, it'll be in Asia. Why Asia? Korea. Oh, yes. Good point. Korea? Never heard of it. My driver says it's only a small country near China. It used to be occupied by the Japanese. Now it's divided. The North is communist, and the South isn't. See what I'm talking about? You can't have two conflicting ideologies in the one place without it leading to war. Well, if that proves to be the case, you can be sure I won't be volunteering to fight in it. Me neither. Me neither. Joey, what's going on? Official business. We are here to execute an arrest warrant. On what charge? War crimes. War crimes? Oh no. I'm afraid so. For violation of the Geneva Convention, for destruction of vital civilian infrastructure, for the intentional targeting and mass murder of non-combatants, you are hereby placed under arrest for crimes against humanity. We need you to uncouple at once and come with us. Peter. What? 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 Is Joey off his nutter or something? Aye, Peter is the last engine on Earth I'd ever accuse of a war crime. Are you sure he didn't mean to say Adam's name in place of Peter's? Well, if he did, the RIU hasn't yet realized its mistake. Where is he now? I don't know. They hauled him off and didn't say where they were taking him. This is absolutely ridiculous. Never mind the fact no non-faceless vehicle has ever been arrested for anything remotely resembling a war crime. There are no laws in existence that could possibly punish us for such an offense. Evidently there are now. That Geneva Convention introduced a slew of statutes governing conduct during a time of war. It wouldn't surprise me if Adam's actions are the reason why they saw fit to apply it to the likes of us too. Let's forget about the law and focus on another point. When could he have possibly done this? There was nearly a moment we weren't apart from each other, in Africa or Europe. I don't see how he could have had the opportunity to commit a war crime. Thomas? Yes? You're being awfully quiet. Uncharacteristically so. And why are you so downcast? Well, you know, one of our own got pinched. It's hardly a time to be chipper. Thomas, do you know something? Thomas? I don't know about what he might have done, but maybe when? Go on. It was a few days after Lily was killed. I had to assemble a goods train that was going to be delivered to an American regiment. Peter delivered it, and he didn't come back until morning. When he got back, he was real upset. I asked him what was wrong, but he didn't want to talk about it. I just thought he was still sad about Lily. Oh, spiffing. Absolutely spiffing. That's marvelous. Don't write him off yet, Gordon. That doesn't prove anything. There's one thing we're overlooking, lads. If there wasn't sufficient evidence of a war crime, such a charge would never have been brought against Peter in the first place. That's very true, Henry. It's not looking good. Don't you give up on him either, Edward. Whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty? That died with the Nuremberg trials. Well, I'll keep my faith in the judicial system and Peter. Until I hear otherwise, I will refuse to believe he committed any sort of war crime. Well, looky here. Not only is a British loco bringing this lot in, he also has a face. Oh, hello. This is a shock for me too. I wasn't expecting to see another non-faceless engine. Then we can both enjoy the novelty. I'm Porter. Peter, are you part of that unit that was raising hell for the Nazis across Africa? The Wild Nor'Westers? You've heard about us? Pretty hard not to. You're famous. Mighty fine work you boys did down there. It was a pleasure doing it, but it wouldn't have happened without you American blokes. I won't say it was a pleasure getting involved, but it's certainly been a thrill tearing those boys a new hole. Yeah, there's something oddly satisfying about revenge. Hey, you! Me? Yeah, we need your help. A company of Marines launched an attack on an occupied village about an hour ago. We just got word they need artillery support. Right, what do you need me to do? You're to head to the observation post directing the attack, and take this gun with you. Have you ever used one of these before? Yes, sir. Lieutenant, what's the holdup? The gun's primed and ready. Just give the word and I'll fire. Hold up there, soldier. We lost contact with the Marines. I've sent a jeep down to... Sir! Report, Corporal. We got ourselves a situation, sir. The Germans have garrisoned the town hospital. They've dug themselves in and around the building. We can't get close without getting gunned down. Worse still, we got reports there are civilians inside. Damn it. We'll have to establish a perimeter around the hospital and wait it out. Perfect. We can't move any further until we've taken that town. And that position is crucial if we're to move on Berlin. Those devious mongrels taking over a hospital. They really have no shame. No, they don't. Oh, to hell with it. What are you? Fire in the hole! What? Oh, hello, Sir Topham. Good evening, Peter. How are you? Not good, sir. Not good at all. It's been a really rough day. I can't imagine. But not to worry. Britain won't let one of its own face these charges alone. What do you mean, sir? Peter, this is Mr. Hodges from the Department of Transport. He will be your defense attorney. How do you do, Peter? A pleasure to meet you. You too, sir. Wait, Mr. Hodges? Aren't you... Never mind. You're going to defend me? Indeed. I work for the legal department at the DOT. Before that, I served in the Navy as a criminal attorney. Not to boast, but I do have a very solid record. That's good, I guess. We had best get down to business. If you don't mind, Sir Topham, could you leave us alone? Of course. Best of luck, Peter. Thank you, sir. All right, let's clear something up first. I gather from your question and Sir Topham's interruption that you've heard about me. Did he tell you I was responsible for the leaks that forced him to step down as director? And what if he did? I can understand why he would think so, but I want you to know I had nothing to do with that. I don't know who was responsible. I'm telling you this because if I'm to defend you properly, we need to be able to trust each other. With that in mind, do you think you can trust me? I guess. It's not like I have much choice anyway. That's a start. Let's discuss your case. The charges are quite severe, and the prosecution has substantial evidence to prove your guilt. What am I looking at if I'm found guilty? Life in prison or execution? Bloody hell. That's only the worst case scenario, and we are far from that point. I don't want to get your hopes up, but there is a chance we might be able to get the charges against you dismissed. How? I've reviewed the Geneva Conventions at length. There are a number of technicalities we may be able to exploit to dismiss at least 2 of the charges. The one concerning the intentional targeting and mass murder of non-combatants will be the most difficult to overcome, however. Have you been told how many counts are attached to that charge? No. How many? 19. 19? The prosecution has lined up a number of survivors as witnesses. I've read their depositions. They're very damning. What if I plead guilty? Then you stand to get up to 20 years in Railgate. What do you think I should do? I think you should fight this. We have a good case, and as a soldier, you deserve to have your day in court. But it's ultimately your decision. What do you want to do? I'll fight this. I didn't survive the battlefield just to give up in a courtroom. That's the spirit. Now let's go over the evidence against you. Thankfully, Peter and his attorney had ample time to prepare the defense, as it took several weeks for all the arrangements to be made. Seeing as how this trial was to be a world first, many details had to be organized beforehand. The location for the trial was picked to be Barrow, in an unused siding next to the station. Around this site, barricades and platforms were built to accommodate the public, the attorneys, and the international panel of judges who would preside over the case. Unfortunately, none of us could attend. Even though a friend of ours was going through this hardship, we still had a railway to run. However, this trial was going to be broadcast by radio, and when it started on September 11, we tried our best to listen in at yards and stations. That was all we could do. To secure world peace and reaffirm the purpose and principles of the Charter of the United Nations, this court is duly constituted and established. The United Nations versus Peter of the United Kingdom. On the 8th of May 1945, the defendant is accused of firing an artillery round at the hospital in the township of Eisenach, resulting in the deaths of 19 civilians. How do you plead? Not guilty. Your Honor, I stand for the defendant, Peter of the United Kingdom. Andrew Hodges of His Majesty's Department of Transport. Welcome, Mr. Hodges. This court also welcomes Mr. Gustav of the prosecution. Thank you, Your Honor. Is the prosecution ready to present its case? We are, Your Honor. I wish to make a motion. I haven't even begun. The motion is to dismiss the charges against Peter. Mr. Hodges, I appreciate your determination, but until arguments have been heard, we have nothing to adjudicate. I understand, Your Honor, but with all due respect to this distinguished court, I maintain these proceedings are quite redundant. Is opposing counsel suggesting we drop these charges as a cruel joke? We are not. But gentlemen, one of the charges against my client is the destruction of vital civilian infrastructure, the hospital at Eisenmar. Yet one fact that has not been disputed by anyone, including the prosecution, is that said hospital was occupied by the German army. As the conventions stand, this makes it a military target, and thus prone to the pitfalls of such a designation. Does the prosecution refute this? No, Your Honor. But even if it were a military position, it was still a hospital. Such a target has long been exempt from exploitation during a time of war. Pity the Wehrmacht was not so respectful of this, or we wouldn't be here. If anything, the men who occupied the hospital should be here in place of my client. It is a rather complicated issue. While hospitals have always been free from use as military strongholds, it does not change the fact in this instance it was used in such a way. And since the prosecution does not refute this detail, the charge of destruction of vital civilian infrastructure is dismissed. In that case, Your Honor, I move to dismiss the entire case against Peter. The prosecution objects. While we concede the hospital was used illegally, civilian casualties were still incurred. The motion to dismiss is denied. We will proceed with the remaining charges. Mr. Gustav, you may present your arguments. Thank you, Your Honor. We will prove that the defendant knowingly and willingly fired on a position housing civilians. I'm sorry, Peter. It's okay, sir. You softened the blow. Maybe we now have a chance. Dr. Eichmann, you were in the hospital when it was struck by an artillery shell, correct? Yes. I was part of a small staff that remained with the patients who could not be moved. Could you tell the court what happened that day? Our soldiers told us they were taking over the entire building for defensive purposes, and that we were to evacuate. And did you? Mostly. Those patients who could not be moved were taken down to the basement. That night, the Americans attacked. There was a battle, shooting, tanks rumbling, then there was a terrible explosion, and the entire hospital collapsed. 19 people died. Were these people fighting the Allied forces? Fighting? They were completely defenseless patients, doctors, and nurses. They were risking their lives to save others. Thank you, Doctor. Were you aware, Doctor, that several days prior, German forces had been storing weapons and munitions on the grounds of your hospital? Yes, I was aware. It was common knowledge. How did that make you feel, knowing such dangerous material was so close to your hospital and patients? I was uneasy. Did you object? Yes, it didn't do any good. And when the German soldiers occupied the hospital, set up sandbags around the perimeter, and dug gun emplacements, did you object? Yes. They told us they were there to protect us. By stashing munitions on hospital grounds, by garrisoning its floors with soldiers, at least they didn't blow up our hospital. But considering your army occupied it, turned it into a military target from which they could fire upon Allied forces, are you surprised it was attacked? Objection. Withdrawn. Nothing further. I hid from the bullets under our hospital bed with my son, Oscar. He was 6. He cried. I tried to calm him down, but it was hard, as I was also afraid. I know this is difficult, madame, but can you tell us what happened when the shell struck? The ground shook. I was thrown across the room. And Oscar, what happened to your son, madame? He was crushed under falling rubble. I tried. I'm sorry for your loss, Mrs. Fisher. I won't keep you long. Do you have a husband, ma'am? Yes, he is a teacher. When was the last time you saw him? 5 years ago. What happened to your husband, Mrs. Fisher? Relevance, Your Honor? Goes to motivation, Your Honor. Liberating Germany from the stranglehold of the Nazis is what the Allied invasion was all about. All right, Mr. Hodges, but make it brief. What happened to your husband, ma'am? SS officers arrived at his school and took him away. Why? They said he was being arrested for subversive activity, that he was a Jewish conspirator. Was that true? No. He said in passing that he felt the treatment of Jewish people was unfair and harsh. Was he given a trial? A forum to explain his position? No. And you haven't seen your husband since, have you? No. He's gone. And by gone, you mean I am certain he is dead. Thank you. Nothing further. The SS took my husband, but your client took my son. What's the difference? Are you all right, Peter? No. Mrs. Fisher's testimony, it was bad, wasn't it? It was always going to be. You can't not lend extra gravitas to the words of a woman who's lost both a husband and a son. I just didn't think they'd cut so deep. She doesn't see any difference between me and those thugs in the SS. There is a difference. You didn't enjoy killing those civilians, did you? No. I felt awful after I'd done it. And make sure you say that when you're on the stand. Mr. Hodges, I still don't like the strategy you've worked up for my testimony. I'm worried it'll make me sound like, well, a war criminal. We've been over this, Peter. We need to address your actions on our terms. That way, we can control the line of questioning. Besides, if I don't ask the difficult questions, the prosecution will. And then we'll have no control over anything. It just sounds risky. Every trial is a risk. We'll rehearse your testimony again tomorrow night after Mr. Zorro has given his. That's another thing. I'm not comfortable about using him like this. He's a sick man. Exactly. It'll be hard to discard the testimony of a cancer patient, no matter his past. So you admit you're exploiting him? Is it any different to what the prosecution did with Mrs. Fisher? Or Dr. Eichmann? No, I guess not. And Mr. Zorro is no fool. He's fully aware that we're using his condition to benefit our case. And don't forget, he approached us. I still don't feel right about this. That's good. It means you have a conscience. We'll make sure to highlight that too when you're on the stand the day after tomorrow. Please state your name for the record. Nigel Zorro, former director of LMS Sodor operations. Mr. Zorro, you worked with the defendant for a number of years, correct? I was honored to do so. Why is that? I make no secret of the fact I was a rather shady character back during the days of the Big Four. I was so devoted to thwarting the competition, it led me to do some pretty stupid things. And I dragged some of my engines down with me. Peter was the only one who stood above this. He never stooped to my level. He is kind, hardworking, and dedicated. So how do you feel about him being on trial here today? I'm shocked and appalled. It isn't right. Do you think Peter could have done the things he's been charged with? No, I don't. But even if he did, I can understand the impulse. You can? I fought in the First World War. I saw terrible things and more than a few atrocities. You can't go through that kind of hell and not be changed by it. Thank you. You're a witness. No questions, Your Honor. Does the defense have any redirect? No, Your Honor. Then we will recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow. Why didn't he ask Mr. Zorro any questions? Because there'd be no point. Not when Mr. Zorro brought up his own shady past. It robbed him of the chance to impeach his testimony. Oh, I see. Is that what'll happen when I give my testimony tomorrow? It might. Be confident, but not overly so. Anything could happen. Do you swear the testimony you shall give will be completely truthful? I do. You may proceed, Mr. Hodges. Thank you, Your Honor. All right, Peter. Let's be upfront about something. Did you fire an artillery shell on the hospital at Eisenmar? Yes, sir. I did. Why? Because I was angry. Angry about what? Everything. I was angry the Germans were using a hospital that way. I was angry they were using a place of healing to shoot up our allies. I was angry that after everything they'd done, they had the gall to use sick people as human shields. Was that the only reason why you were angry? No. I was angry because they killed two very dear friends of mine. Who were they? Their names were Colin and Lily. Colin died on Sodor during an air raid, and Lily died saving the life of another engine in my platoon. I saw this last one. All I could do was watch as she sacrificed herself. Sounds like you wanted revenge. I did, sir. I wanted to make the enemy suffer. Now I realize that's exactly what they would have done. Hell, it's what they did do. You helped raid a concentration camp with your platoon, didn't you? Yes, sir. We saw the bodies of men, women, and children all hacked up and mutilated. Their only crime was not fitting the Nazis' perverted vision for humanity. It could be argued, Peter, that you gave little regard to the welfare of the people inside that hospital. You knew there were civilians inside, but still fired. Why? I really don't know. But the moment I fired, I wanted so badly to take it back. Dear God, what did I do? Thank you. You're a witness. So you admit you fired on the hospital and killed 19 civilians? Yes, sir. Peter, who is Adam? Objection! The defendant introduced his platoon, Your Honor. Overruled. Who is Adam? He's a friend of mine. And he served in your platoon, didn't he? After your unit was transferred to the rear guard, didn't he shove a coach of POWs into the sea, drowning all of them? Yeah, he did. So your platoon is no stranger to committing war crimes. Objection! Sustained. When Mr. Zorro gave his testimony, he admitted he had a negative influence on some of you engines. Did he ever instruct any of you to kill innocent human beings? No, never. You say you wanted revenge for the deaths of your friends, but you claim to not know why you shelled Eisenmar? Do you, or don't you know? Didn't you tell another engine less than an hour before, quote, there's something oddly satisfying about revenge? Yes, I did. And you weren't satisfied that your actions helped the Allies win the battle and take the town? I was. A bit. And were you satisfied knowing you'd helped avenge your fallen comrades? Yes, I was. In fact, it wouldn't have mattered how many civilians were in that hospital. Objection! Not when they'd likely helped contribute to the German war effort. Your Honor, they were just faceless Nazis in your mind, unfit to live. Your Honor, I object. You're right. That's all they were. Everyone keeps banging on about how they were innocent and sick. Who's to say they didn't help make bombs and bullets? The whole bloody country was so devoted to Hitler, they'd do whatever he say. And all Nazi soldiers started as Nazi civilians. Fuck Germany and every damn person who lives there. Peter of the United Kingdom, this court understands you wish to change your plea to guilty. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. And you understand that by changing your plea, you waive any and all rights to a defense? I do. Then how do you plead? Guilty. What I did was wrong. The court finds your decision to be knowing and voluntary, and hereby finds you guilty of all charges. Does the defense have anything to say in mitigation of sentence? Sir, I ask that the court recognize Peter's acceptance of responsibility and admittance of wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have anything to say in aggravation of sentence? Only that the court should be reminded of the defendant's clear contempt for the German people. Thank you for your words, gentlemen. It is the court's ruling that the defendant, Peter of the United Kingdom, shall be sentenced to 15 years in Railgate Prison. We are adjourned. Hearing that verdict was a gut-wrenching experience. I can't even pretend to know how Peter must have felt. I wish I could say we were given the chance to bid farewell to the 8F before he was carted off, but we weren't. Peter was promptly taken to Railgate and shunted into its deepest siding, and there he stayed for the next 15 years. While I didn't much like the idea of a friend languishing in prison for that long, to this day, I honestly can't say the punishment was wrong. Can you?